Hello there again and welcome. Today we're talking about hinge cut bedding areas and the misconceptions behind them. You don't want to miss it. Hello there again and welcome. Ryan Nordahl here, Epic Whitetail Habitat LLC. I want to welcome you back to the channel. If you haven't already, or you're new to my channel and you haven't, hit that subscribe button. And at the end of this video, I hope you find it educational. Give this video a like and share it with your friends. I'd really appreciate it. It's how we beat the algorithm. Anyway, today I want to debunk a bunch of myths and things that I've read on the internet, on social media, about the myths about hinge cutting. Now, hinge cutting isn't for everyone. It's not for every property. It's not the first thing that I recommend when I'm in a bedding area, whether we're creating pinch points, no matter what we're doing. It is not the first thing that I recommend. But hinge cutting has many benefits. And here on the proving grounds and on a couple other properties of my own, my family, it works. And it is a great fit for these properties. It's something that I've been doing for the last 12 to 15 years. I like to think that I've honed my craft. Yes, there is a danger to it. You know, I read that all the time, that it's so dangerous. You know, barber cheering can happen. And that's all true. I'm not going to deny it. I've seen a lot of things. I've been in a lot of different situations. But I'm still here. I still have all my fingers and toes. And, you know, I'm not going to say that someday something serious might happen. I'm not going to say it won't. You just never know. You never know when the good Lord is going to have something happen to you, or worse, take your life. And is it worth your life for a deer? Well, I'm of the mindset I'd rather die doing what I love than doing something I totally hate doing. So, you know, I guess it all boils down to perspective. So take that or leave it. But I'm not telling you to go in and start hinge cutting your property. That's not what this video is about. I'm here to debunk the lies and a lot of the things that I have read against hinge cutting. And, you know, one of them is, and there is one truth that I read all the time, that it is dangerous, you know, as I stated in the beginning. Hinge cutting is dangerous. And if you're hinge cutting large trees, like the ones you see here behind me, there's a greater risk. I'm not cutting, in most situations, I would say probably 85 to 90% of the hinge cutting I do is a 6-inch diameter tree or smaller. Something that I can easily control, you know, with my habitat hooks. I can easily fell with my tree wedges to get some better leverage with my habitat hook, everything else. I'm utilizing every safety precaution I can out there. I'm wearing the chaps, I'm wearing my helmet all the time with a face mask and earmuffs, you know, protective gloves, chainsaw resistant gloves, all of it. I am blessed with an athletic ability at 47 years old to still be able to get out of the way and move fast. I don't just stand there when a tree is falling like I see so many guys on YouTube videos, on TV that are cutting trees. They stand right next to the tree. Even if you're face cutting a tree and felling it, you know, the way you're supposed to fell a tree, the traditional way of felling a tree, they're just standing there watching it. I don't care. I'm getting the hell out of there because, number one, you don't know if there's, you know, if you're not looking up, you never know when a big branch up top is going to fall off and come falling down. I'm getting the hell out of Dodge. Pardon my language, but I get a little heated up about this. Many of you think that a person, once they hinge cut a tree or naturally fall a tree the way it's supposed to be felling, that they're sitting there watching it fall. And I've seen it. And I've seen a lot of guys get in a lot of dangerous predicaments that way. It's not what I'm doing. I'm getting the hell out of Dodge. Getting away from it. Let's be serious here, folks. The other thing I read the other day in one of the Facebook groups that I'm in is hinge cut bedding areas, you just don't get the hardwood regeneration. Nothing could be further. You're either doing something wrong, making areas way too thick. Now, the goal behind hinge cutting is to open up the canopy. But the first thing I always recommend, I'm going to back this up here, The first thing I always go in and evaluate is there a logging opportunity? This is a great spot for a bedding area, which this particular area is. We're about 50 yards off the edge of a food plot here on the property. This is great doe bedding opportunity. Great fawning activity occurs in here. I come in here in the spring, I'm kicking fawns out amongst these hinge cuts they protect. And that's going to lead me to my next point. Deer can't move through it. Predators can corner these deer in these hinge cuts. Well, that's true if you don't go in and create escape routes throughout the property. Right here, where I'm sitting, these deer love to bed underneath this white pine. I was in here the other day, and I can see in the snow cover there's 2-3 beds underneath this white pine. But they've got 5 to 6 different escape routes. One behind the camera here, one over here, off to the south, off to my left here. Behind me, they can get through behind me here. They can go off to the north in a couple different directions here. They've got several escape routes here. That's where I believe that hinge cutting fails, guys, is they go in, they want a one and done solution. It doesn't matter if you go into a clear cut area and you let it regen, 3-4 years, 5 years of regeneration. It's so super thick that deer can't move through that either. It has to be maintained. No matter what you're doing to improve a bedding area, it has to be maintained from year to year. Deer have to be able to move through these areas, whether they're hinge cut, clear cut, or whatever. They have to be able to move through it. That's why a solid stand, a cedar or whatever, isn't necessarily a great bedding location. Cedars, red cedars, they can hold their limbs way down, and if a deer can't move through that, they're not necessarily going to bed there. They're going to move through where it's the easiest. They're going to go through the path of least resistance. I watched several. Excuse me. Got a little bit of cough that I'm battling here. But I get worked up about this. The other thing I read was you don't get the hardwood regeneration. Nothing could be further. From where I'm standing right here, I can see a ton of oak coming up through. And these tops, whether we've went in and planted the trees or they're coming naturally, which I would say about 97% of what's coming in here regeneration-wise is natural hardwood regeneration. Those tops act as seclusion cages. Well, you're not going to get the sun down through them tops, especially if they're holding their leaves. Nothing could be further from the truth. I can see right here, especially with the oaks, you can see the oaks, the red oak. There is some white oak in here that's coming. They're coming up through naturally. We did not go in and plant these. These came up on their own because we allowed more light down to the surface, the ground surface. So, right there, that's debunked as well. There's so many things about a hinge cut bedding area, in hinge cutting in itself, deer will avoid the area. And in some cases that might be true because it might not be strategically located. And it might not be in that natural line of movement that deer want to be in. Might be in a wrong spot. Here it works great because it's right off the edge of a food plot where deer, especially does and fawns, naturally want to be. So this one works great. And the deer love it, especially with these bigger white pine that are scattered in amongst here. They love to lay down in those pockets, and that's where we're hinge cutting the trees around them to allow that sunlight in this flat. So on cold days like today, with the sun shining down, these deer can get up underneath these white pine and still have the sun beating down on them, even this being on the north side of a hill. And we've got a northwest wind. I kicked deer out of here today. I could see their tracks when I was walking through the snow here to get into this spot to film this. But I hope I cleared some of the misconceptions up about hinge cut bedding areas. They take time. It's fun to do. I'm not saying it's the right solution for every property, but for here on this property it works, and it is the right solution in these strategic areas. Well, every tree is going to die that you hinge cut. That's not necessarily true either. I can see several trees here that are continuing to produce stump sprouts, new sprouts down the trunk of the tree that's laying on the ground. They're staying alive. We're keeping them alive. But there were small trees too, so we were able to grab them either with a habitat hook or with our hands and pull them down gently so they stay together, maintaining a good connection to that cambium layer, you know, a good portion of that cambium layer, cutting about halfway through, maybe just over half. And that's where the habitat hook comes in. And I think that's where guys have a lot of problem, is they're cutting, you know, those larger 4 to 6, maybe 8 diameter trees. They're cutting them at an angle, trying to get them to fall a little bit easier, but they're cutting way too much. They're cutting way too far, whether it's an angle cut or a parallel cut. Now, a parallel cut, that's the cut that you want. You want to keep that saw as flat and as parallel to the ground as possible, ranging our cuts anywhere from knee high to just, I'm 6'2", just over my hips, over my waist, you know, below my sternum, below my rib cage. That's about the heights that I'm looking for when I'm making my hinge cuts. You don't need to go any higher. You start getting up in here, that saw kicks back, be right in your face. I don't care if you have, you know, a face shield on your helmet at all. It can go through that, get to your face, and that'd be bad news. And I don't want that happening to anybody. I've seen a lot of dangerous shit happen in my life, and, you know, fortunately, guys walked away from it. But there was a couple guys, they're lucky they didn't get themselves killed in the stuff that I've seen growing up in my life with chainsaws. And thank God they're still here on the face of the earth, but they went through some trauma for a while. And are they reluctant to operating a saw anymore? No, they're not, but they're a lot more aware of what they're doing. And that's what I want you to be. The biggest thing is I want you to be safe. I want you to be smart. And if you have any hesitation whatsoever, yes, there are guys out there that have been doing this for a long time, that are professionals like myself, that know what they're doing, know what to look for, know which trees hinge cut the best, and which trees to leave alone. If there's a logging opportunity before you start, you know, that's always the first thing I'd look at when I'm in, you know, on a consultation. Is there a logging opportunity here? Put some money back in your pocket, help offset the cost of the habitat improvements that I recommend, anything like that. So, I hope you found this video somewhat helpful and educational when it comes to hinge cut bedding areas and the misconceptions that are behind hinge cutting. Take it or leave it. I don't care. But if you found it helpful, found it educational, give this video a thumbs up. I'd really appreciate it. Leave a comment, you know, on what you find, you know, and it comes down to aesthetics as well. To the untrained human element eye, you know, looking at it from a human perspective, yeah, it looks ugly, but deer don't care. I'll take features over beauty and aesthetics any day. So, with that, good luck to you all this spring with your upcoming habitat projects. God bless you all. Stay safe. Keep living the dream. Thank you.